Ready?
Okay.
I'm ready.
Everybody at home, do this with this. A 1, a 2, 1.
1, 2, 3.
4.
We don't even know, no, we don't. We don't even know, no, we don't. With Christian Felix,
Chanel.
Bowman.
We
don't even know.
know.
We don't even know, no, we don't.
We
don't even know, no, we don't. With Christian Felix,
Bowman and Justin the intern.
We don't even know.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Amazing graphics, people.
Thank you for being with us today. Wow.
Indeed.
We were not here this last month, which is the first break we've taken in a long time. The last show we did was May. It was a great show. It was insane how things took a turn. We already had the pandemic. It got real serious in the past 2 months. And we've been taking the time to be on our own. I hope you guys have been enjoying time at home, or if not, you've been safe. And if not, hopefully you're alive. That's something we could say right now. But
it's true.
If you're here with us, we really appreciate it, because we're gonna have a good time tonight. We have lots in store for you guys. Justin, how many years have we been together now?
It's 8.
8. Good. There's a quiz right there. Very good. Justin has been with us since the very beginning, and so it's a triumphant here. We have been friends for at least 8 years, and for 8 years we have enjoyed being together once a month. That's quite an accomplishment. I would say.
For the most part.
I think I met you guys both 1 year before that is when I moved to New York. So that was...
Wow.
That sounds about right. And Justin, I have to check the Guinness Book of World Records, but I think you may be the longest serving and running intern of any podcast ever. I think we actually could even expand that beyond the world of podcasts. For 8 years, you being in the place of an intern and not progressing and not regressing, you can say, not regressing.
But I didn't start out as an intern. I did regress. I started out as the audio engineer and photographer.
That's what I was gonna say. That's what I was gonna say. Exactly. Thank you, Justin, for clearing that up.
That's right.
Did go backwards. He was in charge of all the tech and all the photos, and he slowly delegated, or we slowly delegated those jobs.
That's right. I delegated the titles and the jobs.
Somehow, Justin, you turned that into a growth opportunity, and you've been growing ever since. So congratulations, intern.
Thank you. That's why I'm 5'8" today.
But we did start this, honestly, because when Christian and we started friendship a long, long time ago, but we always enjoy long conversations filled with laughter and lots of topics. We discuss so many things that are happening in the world with us personally, all from in terms of pop culture to, to political topics, to what our parents like and do, to our family dynamics. We'll show you. We're going to share quite a bit tonight, but I just wanted to read to you, Christian. This is sort of the very first show we did when we started. This was the heading underneath our podcast. It says,
"Oh, wow.
Christian Felix and Shalewa Sharpe are longtime friends who met as temps at a huge law firm in New York City. Due to their love of laughing and giving each other hell, they figured a podcast would be the best way to share their fun with the world. Christian is from Chicago, Illinois, and Shalewa is from Nashville, Tennessee. They are both a little bit country and a little bit rock and roll." Wait, correction. Shalewa is a little bit of both. Christian is, Christian.
Somehow
I wonder who wrote that one.
Somehow I did not see that copy before it got greenlit.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
Well, this is what happens when you don't pay attention to your own website. This is
Oh!
when you don't.
But yeah, Shalewa, you are rock and roll, and you are definitely a little country. That is for sure.
Thank you. Thank you. I did notice. I'm taking it as a compliment. All of you country folk at home, I am too. And I listened to the first episode, a little bit of it, and my accent, although I still have an accent now, was much more Southern when we started, which I guess 8 years of being in New York City will change you. I still have a Southern accent. I know that. Don't give me a hard time. I get it. But it was much more Southern. Now here I am.
Now here you are, 8 years later. You sounded a lot more sophisticated.
But I know Justin is sort of aware of this, but we were talking. Christian and I have been able to be socially distant and meet up. He's sort of my pod mate. He's the one person outside of seeing my family for the first time, which that happened, that I see. I also saw Justin. So I did get to see my We Don't Even Know crew members, and that was so awesome. But one thing we did talk about recently is being in this pandemic, being in this time of civil unrest, and being a person of color that has lots of white friends. And I know you guys at home, you guys can relate. And there is a job that you have. There's like, not just in terms of being active and being loud and bold, but you have a job as being the person of color that is the friend to lots of white people. And Christian, you have had a lot. You've had a lot that you've dealt with.
I have. I mean, I have so many white friends that if any of you need any that are listening, I probably have one or two that I could spare. Did I say spare? I mean share. I could share with you and the world. Listen, my mother's white. I have a lot of white family. I have a lot of fantastic, wonderful white friends. But what I will tell you, in this most recent resurgence of the Black Lives Matter energy and all the attention that's being brought to it, a lot of these friends that I've technically lost touch with, some maybe 4 years, some maybe 5 years, some as many as 20 years, all of a sudden are flying in from out of the woodwork, talking about how I'm their bestie and that, we're really close and they're so grateful for me. And that's all wonderful. And some of them even wrote on Juneteenth. They actually had the wherewithal to start celebrating me.
Not just one,
on
more
Juneteenth.
than one. More than
and
one.
All I got to say is that I appreciate the sentiment. But if you're one of those folks that have not talked to me for decades, and now all of a sudden they're coming back out of the woodwork, what it says to me very loud and clear is I'm still probably your only Black friend. So all I'm saying, folks, is, at least find a reason.
Branch out. Find another Black friend. Can you do that?
Find some more Black people.
Having more than one Black friend is a good thing. You can branch out. It's easy.
It's pretty easy. Yeah.
It's easy. There's
So that's going on with me. And then in addition to that, I'm hearing from a lot of friends that weren't living in New York City, and this is not just white friends, but all sorts of friends who were just depicting New York as like the last place on earth they'd want to be. And like for the first parts of the pandemic, you're right. Like New York was pretty intense, and there was some, pretty uncomfortable.
We were the epicenter of the pandemic. We were. Not now.
Exactly.
Today, things have changed.
And so now New York is one of the best places to be, and I wish that upon the rest of the country. But wear your mask and stay socially distant.
I'm just going to point out, because this got to me, Christian had one of these friends that he has not talked to in probably 8 years, 10 years, a white friend who I could have predicted what he would have said, and which was him talking nonstop about himself, his, amazing job, himself. And at the end he said, quote, "I'd rather slit my wrist than be in New York City." And I think he lives in LA. So touche, my friend, touche.
All right, Shalewa, let's not get too specific about my friends.
That's the point of the show, my man. We're not hiding. That is the point of the show. We ain't hiding, guys. We are not hiding.
One of my uncles, by the way, my brother lives in California. I live in New York. My uncle goes, at Christmas, he goes, I just, everybody out on the coast, they're stupid. New York and California, I wish they would just drop into the ocean.
Well, you know what? At least we got an ocean to drop into. What the hell are you going to drop into, Minneapolis? A bunch of your lakes? Yeah, we wish you drop into those too. Shoot. Now, Shalewa.
Okay, well, let's get to it. Like, we are going to have a great show tonight. We have a plan. The plan is for us to go over. We obviously can't go over everything from 8 years of shows, but we've had so many fantastic guests, and we've also sort of like going through it. There was so much that we might even have to break up our ideas about how we do this. But we realized this one, especially in these times, how important it is to reflect on how our show very much so covered a lot of the topics that are now becoming front and center in the country. And we're always talking to our guests about these issues, and we're gonna highlight some of those now: the fun, the sad, the good. But just our brand of us being real and wanting to talk to you guys in an intimate setting, which is normally how we do this. But right now, we're lucky enough to get to do this with you all through the World Wide Web. And now we have our friends from all over the country that get to see us talk. So feel free. Justin's going to be on manning the Facebook feed. So feel free to talk to us through that. He can let us know, what.
There is a message real quickly, just a delivery. We got a shout out saying that the fondue pot was never delivered yet.
Oh, this is something
Now,
yes.
Okay, that's fair. Can we just say, Shalewa, let me just say something now, because I'm managing the fondue pot, and all I will say is that even though it had to be delivered in Brooklyn, and we're just now reaching phase 4, I believe, of our city opening, that is impacting the courier status of the fondue pot. But truth be told, maybe somebody had second thoughts. I don't know. Okay.
Yep. Jack, I'm on him for that. I'm on him.
It's coming to you, Jack. It's coming.
I remember that. And then I know our friend Amir wants that outfit. So we will work on that. Sorry for that delay. We did have more than enough time, just like Congress had more than enough time to come up with a package.
Okay.
Okay.
Before we get into more comparisons that are unnecessary, let's move on.
Okay. Let's do it. This is something I want to talk about. Obvious issue, mass. Everybody in this world today, young, old, if you haven't had a conversation about mass in the past 4 months, I don't know where you've been. Yes. But some of these things are so funny, instead of like the shocking, horrific aspect of people just flipping out about not having to wear a mask or having to wear a mask. Christian and I had some funny scenarios in terms of mass culture now, like how our day-to-day, like walking in New York, almost everyone has a mask. I used to comment on how shocked we were that people didn't wear masks, but in New York, I am actually very impressed. When you walk around, for the most part, people have on masks. And now, yeah, and then when I see one or two without, they don't freak me out as much, because I do know that our community worked hard to deal with this virus in this city. And so without going into my story, Christian, well, you remember when you were talking about your story about?
Well, mass, I'm a quick study, and there's a lot to learn with this whole mask dynamic, because at one point, the reason for the masks is that you can kind of separate yourself from people. You have to still stay socially distant. The ironic thing is that now that we're wearing all these masks, it's harder for me to understand people. I don't, half the time I don't know what people are saying. And so I want to lean in to kind of, what was that? But then you don't want to lean in because you don't want to. So it really is kind of an awkward new social landscape. But I was going to get my first haircut, and that's on the Lower East Side off the Bowery, which still is a little sketchy. You still see some folks that are doing different types of stuff. And I don't think of myself as like super approachable. Like I think I'm a fairly affable guy. But then with like the mask on, I think of myself as even less like approachable. Like who's gonna just randomly talk
You got
to
that
me?
on record, Justin. You heard that? He said he was not approachable.
I don't think of myself as a person who just like, but people like approach me all the time. So this guy approaches me and I had this Basquiat crown shirt on. He goes, "What artist was that?" I said that was Basquiat. That was Basquiat. Now he was an artiste. He knew what. He's like, do you know where I could get that shirt? And I said, "You know, sir, I got it from Uniqlo." He's like, "You think they got a triple XL?" And so on it went. And then finally he goes, "What do you do?" And at that point, I didn't know how deep I could get. I'm like, "I'm an actor." He goes, "Oh, have you been on anything I've seen?" And I kind of
And no, Christian, when you say I'm an actor, it's almost like you're heckling him. Because when you say you're an actor, everyone knows, like, it's like saying you're a comedian. It's the worst thing you could say.
That's probably true.
You knew, you were like, okay, I'm ready, let's go. And now,
Oh man, I really wasn't, but it did open up a can of worms. And all I gotta say, he's a really nice guy. Once I gave him my cred, and he knew that I was legit, then it led into this huge story about Jamie Foxx and how Jamie Foxx hit a low around the time that he filmed Ray. And this guy knew about the time that Oprah Winfrey and Sidney Poitier took Jamie Foxx aside and said, "You know, you got to do this work for more than just yourself. You represent us, you represent this community, et cetera, et cetera." And it lit the fire under Jamie Foxx's ass, and he won the Oscar. And this guy said, "So Christian, when you walk through the doors that Jamie Foxx walked through and you go up on the top floor and talk to those big wigs in Hollywood, just make sure you press the down arrow on that elevator so it comes down and picks up the rest of us." And it was just like that random, like moment of clarity and like depth that is from the last source that I would have thought of getting it. And it was really deep, and it was really nice that, you know, he thought that, you know, I one day will become a Jamie Foxx. So, you know, it was a really nice story.
it's a sweet story. The part that you left out was, that's the
And
part,
at the very end of it,
the pandemic.
I'm wearing my mask. I'm sitting outside because now the waiting room for the barbershop is outside. And this is the reason why this whole entire conversation continued to happen. And the man approaches me to kind of finish the conversation. And the best I could offer was the elbow bump. This gentleman looked like he didn't have sanitizer. You know what I'm saying? So I luckily had mine at the ready, and this is the first time, but in this pandemic time, I
That's what I'm, that's
my elbow. All right,
what's
I
happening.
sanitized my elbow.
He
Everyone.
sanitized his elbow. This is what we're talking about. All of us have had situations where we've sanitized parts of our body that we never thought we'd sanitize before. I
think that's on previous episodes.
this is fill us in the comments. What have you had to sanitize that you did not know?
Wow, Shanali, that's an interesting question to open up.
In fact, we're gonna bring in our guest tonight, who is going to spend the rest of our show with us. I'm really excited. And Justin, I want to thank you for being with us tonight, of course. Also, everyone, I was just given an Aperol Spritz in honor of the 8th anniversary. Everyone, cheers.
Cheers, Shanali. Cheers, Justin the intern, and all our wonderful supporters.
I'll leave you guys at it. I'll go get one. Be on
Okay.
Facebook.
All right. Sounds good.
Bye-bye, intern. Bye.
As for our guest who's going to join us tonight, this is a spectacular comedian who also happens to be like my homie from back when I lived in Atlanta, Georgia. we were friends before we ever started being in comedy and in film and whatever the hell it is that we all do. But she has taken this city by storm. She came here and she was new to town, and she was one of our guests on
That's right. That's right.
When we did our podcast in this apartment back in the day. So we've grown up quite a bit. We're here with her tonight. Her name is Shalewa Sharpe. Let's hear
Shalewa. Come on our Zoom,
Come
Shalewa.
on in, girl. She's joined us. Yeah.
There she is. Connect that audio, Shalewa. Connect that audio.
Look at that.
Loving that picture, too.
Hi,
there
y'all.
she is. Hello. Hello.
You're looking good.
Oh, thank you. I just put a dress on over my sleep skirt.
Pandemic fashion.
Yeah. It's been some real unstructured lockdown looks going on over here. I'm kind of proud of what I've been doing, but I also know that I'm not the level of proud where I will photograph them and show them to people, because it is a very fine line.
I'm with you.
It's a very fine line.
It's fashion to appreciate in the moment.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
No joke. Well, Shalewa, we were catching up on our unique scenarios that have happened in this pandemic based on mass culture and like us managing just to even walk outside, here and there. Christian was just sharing how he had to sanitize his elbow because he was talking to a homeless man that definitely was really fond of him. I was going to share.
That's an interesting word choice, Shalewa. I would say interesting.
He wouldn't let you go. He would not let you go. He wanted to hang. I mean, come on. It's a compliment. That's a compliment.
I'm fond of you too.
I was going to say, Shalewa, that this was my experience. Now it's happened more than once, and it is so funny. You're walking, a man with a mask on. You can't see anything. You can barely see his eyes. There's nothing. The clothing is just it's pandemic wear, schlubby, sweats, big T-shirts. All of us have it on. There's nothing that says, "Hey, I got it going on." None of it. Which is, and he goes, "Hey, what's happening? How you doing?" I can hear it as I'm walking, and it wasn't a greeting in terms of "Have a good day, ma'am." It was he wanted to stop and get it going with me, and it was clear that I was to be enamored by him, and we were gonna hook up. And that's to say, I've been hit on by people in masks, and it is the funniest thing I've ever. I can't wait till we cover this on film at some point. We just have people saying crazy come-ons with masks, but it doesn't work. I don't know. It just doesn't work. You can't see their eyes. You can't feel their. So, in terms of you, Shalewa, is there any two questions? What body part of you had to sanitize that you didn't think you would have to before this pandemic? Have you been hit on by someone?
And Shalewa, feel free to be offended by any and all questions.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, I don't want to say I'm gross. I want to say we're all gross. So, I mean, if there's a new part of me that I should be keeping clean, by all means, tell me. Because I didn't think you could see it anyway. But if I should be keeping it clean, I will keep it clean. I already was, before all of this started, I took too long in the restroom because I needed to make it clean enough for me, and then also clean enough for whoever comes in after me. I wanted to look like I was never there. So I'm already putting a basket of toilet paper down, and then I'm getting rid of that evidence, and then I'm washing my hands like a surgeon and taking too long. And that was started like a couple of years ago.
Wow.
So
that's good. You were pretty prepared.
I was ready for that. But I don't think I did the wiping down of groceries has been new.
Yeah.
That's a thing. And then I just before this happened, I bought 2 pairs of shoes. They were transitional sandals. Which is to say only 2 to 3 toes out, depending on how bloated I was. And tiny little cutaways at the arch. And my foot actually has an arch, so you still wouldn't see the arched part, the inside of my foot, but the outside, just a little like crossway for a breeze. And then that was it. That's all that's visible. And I bought them while asleep. I bought them off of Instagram while asleep.
That's what we're doing these days.
And so I got them and was very excited because they look very older Soho art woman. And that's what I was shooting for.
Specific.
Yes, it's very specific. And I bought them in black and natural. And I'm very excited about them. And then this happened, and I was like, oh, well, no one's going to see my feet. I'm like, which is fine, because as I said, 2 to 3 toes. That's the most, like they said transitional sandal, and they didn't understand that this was my sandal. This was all, when I design a sandal, it's literally just a pair of sneakers with a toe cut out, and that's it. So I just took one of those pairs of shoes and I made them my house shoes. So
there you go.
Yeah, I'm like, I paid enough money for them. My actual house shoes are not ready for the wear and tear that I'm going to put on them. I'll make these what would be outdoor shoes, indoor shoes, which means that sometimes I'm comfortable enough when I have to go somewhere, I just put them on and go. So when I come back, I gotta wipe down the bottom of my shoes.
Yeah.
So in a weird way, Shalewa, they're actually your transitional sandals, but in a way that you did not anticipate.
No, not at all. Yeah.
But see, here's where, Shalewa, when you tell me that, and this is my brain, like literally I have sanitized, like we've been outside, say I touch something, and then of course the 2 things you're not supposed to touch, your eye, I have done that. I have touched, like, oh, it itches, scratch, touch my eye, and then immediately take hand sanitizer, put it, because I'm out in nowhere land, puts hand sanitizer, and then my eyes are burning, my mouth's burning. Now, when you talk about the sandals, I would sanitize my toes.
Well, that's not going to be a problem because I'm sanitizing them so that I'll be able to walk further in the house since they're also the house shoe, because I'm going straight to take a Silkwood shower. So it's all getting, I'm lazy. Yeah, I'm getting ready to wash it all. Wash it all down. Yeah.
That's what we're doing. That's how this works, America. This is how New Yorkers somehow worked it to where we're one of the lowest infected cities and states. We take showers right away. We worry about every little piece of our flesh that's been exposed to the world. We sanitize all the time. We're seeing more people with masks than without. It works.
Yep, it works.
Yeah, it works if you work it.
It works if you work it.
That's an old church thing, right? That's where I've heard it from, old church ladies.
So.
I think it's you. I like it.
Yeah, I'm sure that's where I picked that up from.
Well, Layla, what we're going to do tonight, we didn't really fill you in on the nitty gritty, but Christian and I went through some of our episodes over the last 8 years.
Okay.
And we pulled out little clips that to us sort of, one is, because let me tell you, there was so much good stuff. It was
totally
so good. And, we could have just had me giving Christian hell, like a whole episode of that.
Sure.
That would have been 2 hours if I just cut those out.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm, I'll give you that, Christian. I'll give you that. But not to say we're not including that, but we realized that our show has, in the last 8 years, also pretty much been talking about in many of our conversations, we've been dealing with all the issues we are seriously discussing finally in the world today. So there's a lot of the guests, and you know many of them, but they come from the worlds of comedy, music. There's journalists, there's writers, there's also our moms, and there's every kind of person. But we always just have real talk. So I was going to share this clip. If I'll intro it because Jason's helping us out with this. But this was when we had a show in April and we were discussing masks. And we were, at that point, all of us, and our guest was Chelsea Peretti, and she lives in LA, and she was not seeing masks. And Christian and I were not seeing masks at that point. So here's a clip that.
Okay, I can't.
Seriously. So, yeah, it's the struggle.
You can't put your trust in others right now. It's just
No.
like, and also like I did this post about masks and how like I saw this group of friends, like literally like 15 dudes walking in my neighborhood, and like half of them had masks on, and I was like, I feel like you guys like read part of an article, you know? And I posted this, and then all the comments were so crazy. Like people were so hostile to like even the topic of masks. I was like, we're in a weird place. Like there's a lack of leadership, and people like, someone was like, masks are Trump. Like it's a Trump thing, and I'm like, no, doctors wore masks before this, honey.
What? What the hell?
Like she was like, yeah, like what's that woman Birkin or whatever her name is?
Yeah, Burks, Dr. Burks.
She suggested it, and that's a Trump thing. If it makes you feel better, that's fine, but they don't do anything. I'm like, first of all, your tone, like the whole thing. I was just like, who are you? What side are you on? Like I just was like. And then like,
I'm actually so happy that you said that, because I thought that all the masked haters were people that were Trump supporters, like people who were like, it's infringing on our right. It's good to hear that there's crazy on both sides.
I think it's across the board. Americans are so entitled to feeling good all the time.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like they're like, I deserve to feel good and to feel free at other people's expense. It's actually the American way.
Yeah.
Oh.
Feel good no matter what the cost is to other people.
That's right.
So it's like, you know, everyone's just walking around like, whatever, don't tell me what to do. It's like, that's like across all political platforms. It's like an American identity is like, we'll do what we want.
True. Yeah. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Jason.
That you could not, that statement right now on the day that Bill Barr gets up in front of the House Judiciary Committee and just acts like, what? I think we're doing a great job during the coronavirus. He has a Southern accent, if you guys didn't know. What?
Where is he from?
New York City. He doesn't. That was me. My bad accent about everybody has a Southern accent. No, he's from New York. But it's just a testament what she just said. I was thinking, yeah, we all have the mentality is that we need to feel good all the time, and if it's an inconvenience, then something's wrong, you know. And I don't know if maybe we're learning this 6 months into a pandemic, but crossing fingers. I mean,
Shalewa, what was your experience like the early part of the pandemic? Were you seeing were you just so hunkered down that like you didn't know what was going on outside?
Oh yeah, no, I ain't see shit. I didn't see anything. I didn't have to. I guess maybe like March 20th was like the Friday before everything was really like locked down, was the last time that I had been in my office for a while. I've since been back a number of times, but I came home and I didn't even have a mask at that point. At that point, no one really had a mask. So I think I just pulled my turtleneck up over my face on the train ride home. And by then, a lot of people were already kind of staying home, so the train wasn't packed. And then I got inside and I was like, okay, so we're gonna need some masks. So I ordered a few for me and my roommate, but I just didn't go anywhere. Because at that time it was very, very scary. You remember? I
Yeah.
don't know. It was actually kind of frightening. So, and no one really knew what to do. So, I feel like everyone was just hiding out.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. Everyone
yeah.
was hiding out, and luckily people continued to hide out and kind of be social distant where we were. But where Chelsea was calling in from, where she was calling in from California, and that whole dynamic of like this kind of like casual like approach to the mask wearing, and then the sense of entitlement, which I thought was really interesting about her insight, was that she was really articulating a position that was kind of above the divisiveness of our politics, and really kind of articulated a part of our Americanness that is getting in the way of us being effective when it comes to cooperating, when it comes to doing one thing I have to do that's actually for the betterment of you. That's something that's really hard for us to do. And I thought, I really, in my own like biased, like liberal mind, was like, oh, it's all the Trump supporters who are like being ignorant about this. But in reality, it's apolitical, like this ignorance around this pandemic. And what I find is so interesting is like what we're seeing now is what she was talking, like we're coming to see the consequence of that like mentality.
Well, did you have to have any conversations with any family members who were not, like in the early days, who were not in an area where this was a concern? Because I would talk to my sister and I would tell her what we were doing, and she would be like,
And
yeah,
she's
well, I mean,
Atlanta.
yeah. And she's like, yeah, no one's really doing any of that here. And I'm like, so this must all sound like overkill. And she's like, well, no, I mean, I guess it's just because y'all are so up on each other, and everyone else here,
Yes.
we're all doing our own thing. So I'm not really, like in apartment buildings and trains, everyone's got their own car and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, well, just promise me you will wear gloves when you go to the gas station.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was like, because that's where, if everybody's in their cars, that's where you all are going to connect. And trust me, them pumps is covered with the COVID. So please have
those
gloves
pumps,
or set.
Yeah, those pumps pumping COVID.
So like, just know that, and it really did kind of take a week to 2 weeks of something happening here, and then it would trickle, and then I'd hear from her in Atlanta, and she's like, oh, this happened. When they shut down the bars and restaurants here, I told her about it. And 2 weeks later, she waits tables. She was laid off. And her restaurant closed. And I was like, yeah, that's why I told you. Because I'm like, this shit is coming your way.
It is.
And, like, I was like, look, I know it seems, I don't want you out there looking, I know you're going to feel like you're looking crazy, but trust me on this, wear a mask, wear a glove, have sanitizer, get wipes, like load up on that stuff. If you can find a thermometer, do it. Because trust me, if they're gone, they're gone. You're not going to find them again.
Yep.
Like that kind of thing. And she would update me like, I found one at a Walmart at 1 a.m, and me and a woman, we were the only ones there, and they happened to, the key is you got to be there when the truck comes in. And I'm like, I mean, I guess so. Yeah. But definitely I have a couple of friends who are living in places where they think it's just like it's going to get sucked up in the mountain air or something, and they're not going to have to worry about it. So they know, they're like, I mean, I go to work and I wear a mask and all that stuff, but then they're also like, but then I was hanging out with these folks at this fire pit and all this stuff, and I'm like, I don't think you're hearing me. Like,
I mean,
it's in the air. It's in the air.
It literally is in the air.
Yeah.
So you got to wear your mask now, Shalewa. And there's other aspects of life that has really, really changed dramatically
through
in these pandemic times. And one of our former guests,
we've discussed this before, Christian.
We have.
Past show in terms of dating during a pandemic.
Yes, that's been one of the most drastic changes, Shalewa. I mean, Shalewa's married and kind of probably lives a more restive and maybe slightly boring, let me not say, just in terms of like the dating aspect of things, she pretty much knows how things are going to turn out for her every single night. But for others who are still kind of things are up in the air. You know, I don't know if you recently saw the revised New York City sex guidelines now advocate for things such as something that you may have heard of, a glory hole, where you put up a sheet and you put a little hole in the sheet, and then whatever you want to, well, you know, that's how, Google glory hole if you need any more.
I mean, there's so many things that I could say about what you're talking about. But first of all, how do you know about New York City sex guidelines? I have seen this, but I don't know if it's because you told me. But
no, it's out there.
It's out there.
It's
out there.
Yeah, it was like part of a.
It's
How
New
do
York.
I know? Because
Yeah, it was part of an. It was just part of an update of just like, oh hey, everybody.
Thank you, Shalewa.
Yeah.
And this may be because I do have a significant other. I didn't notice them, but I just wanted to say, Christian, thank you for sharing them with us.
Well, I didn't even share all of them, Shanali. Now, the glory hole was one of the more extreme examples when you're in person. They suggest perhaps exploring positions where you're not facing the partner. Mask play is something that they advocated for, and different costume play. They don't necessarily advocate for the kissing, and they have very specific moves and behaviors that you can do in person. Now, I'm not here to say if I've tried any of that, okay? I like to stay a man of mystery in certain respects. I don't know. I don't want people to think that, oh, I know I'm going to get a glory hole when I go see Christian. You don't know. I'm going to stay mysterious with all of that. But what I will say is they also encourage people to do sex parties on Zoom.
Oh.
So imagine if we are on Zoom doing that. Now, I have not been able to explore any of that.
This will go into, because
Shalewa, by her look, she won't explore it either.
We were going to share a clip, which this is pre-pandemic. This is episode 76.
Yes.
And November 2019, just before, like a few months before, and Denise Mobley shared a moment with us about the good days of dating for her.
Living our things, whatever. There was a period of time where I was receiving a lot of dick pics, and don't worry about it.
It's great.
Thank you.
I'm gonna say it's great. It's awesome.
There was a day where I was very bored at work, and I just went through my phone, and it was like a year after like the high volume period, right? And then I was just like bored, and I was like, I'm just gonna send these people's dick pics back to them.
Oh, that is aggressive.
No context, no information.
That's aggressive.
I got a huge kick out of it. I enjoyed it so much.
What were some of the responses?
Who is this? What do you want? So that was some of them. One of them that I greatly appreciated was like, "So we doing this again?" Or,
I would expect "Oh, you miss me?"
Yeah, yeah. Some people were like,
"Wow,
oh, she's sending me what she wants." Apparently, like that's.
Well, what about them don't you like?
Actually,
I heard some groans. I'm just curious.
I mean, I think when people send a dick pic without any sort of context or information, I think that's rude. It's just a thing that's like interrupting someone's day.
Yep.
It's like you have to address this now.
I agree.
Like it's too much.
So it's about the unsolicited part. They're like, you want to see this?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Like if I asked,
need a heads up.
if I were to ask,
just send me a nude genital out of nowhere.
like, you don't know who I'm around. It just pops up on my phone. I get a notification.
It's a normal thing. Like
Don't do that.
Okay.
Thank you. Now you know. Now you know where Christian's been.
Yeah.
Okay. Now
let me know that like
that episode, Jason.
Thank you, Jason.
Very
Thank you.
much.
Also, I like that Shanali said genital.
Oh,
Just the one.
Can we just start there? All of a sudden,
The
Shanali
lone.
turns into Sister Mary Magdalene.
Yeah,
Shanali
the lone genital.
The genital pic. Oh my God.
Just the genital with a mask
Christian,
on.
you do have to admit that unsolicited pictures of genitalia, that is like, if you sent that to a child.
Okay, now time out. first of all, with the unsolicited, speak for yourself.
Well,
Secondly, for the whole notion, let's not involve children. And if you are under 18, stop listening to our Facebook right now.
But that was the point of her comment, was that it's annoying to receive an unsolicited dick pic out of nowhere.
And sometimes unsolicited just means too soon. Like it's not at that point yet in the conversation.
That's fair.
You know what I mean? Like when you start a conversation, it's not necessarily a contract, but it's a little bit of a contract based on how it is that you even started to talk to begin with. So it's safe to kind of assume, all right, she's probably going to want a picture of my junk. But
right.
You can think that, but then you still need to wait for the cues that she is ready for a picture of her junk.
Shalewa, now I'm not necessarily saying for you to need to base it on your personal experience, but with lacking an invitation, what would some of those cues potentially sound like? And can we just also make sure our audience understands that when we say dick pic, essentially that's the universal phrase for like a nude, okay?
Yeah.
Because like dick pic, it's really kind of like the guys are just sending their dicks like willy-nilly. No, the dick pic is universal for like the nude picture.
Nude in a sexual way. Now, if someone's sending you a picture because they want to see
guys
if
are sending pics
Fair
willy-nilly. I just, that is.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to my question, Shalewa. That's a fair point, Shanali. Not all guys, I will say.
Of course not.
My picture's
I didn't
not
say
going
all
out
guys.
willy-nilly.
Well, I wouldn't be
but
talking.
you know, it's in the flirtatious nature of the conversation, right? So you have to kind of, I mean, it's a fine line, but I feel like usually a woman would, you lob something out there verbally, and a woman will respond like, in kind. I will say, I haven't gotten many dick pics thrown my way. Not for lack of trying. I mean, I've had the same number for like 15 years. But
no uptick post-pandemic, because this is the whole point of the conversation.
Oh no one has none of that has happened to me at all. None of that. There's been no, and yeah, I haven't. I'm not really attempting. But before that, I mean, there was no real interest, and I can't say that I'm someone that is more attractive in a state of panic. Do you know what I mean? I think I'm someone that you attempt when you're pretty sure your shit's going okay. But I'm not someone that you can just be like, I am freaking out. Maybe this one. I don't put out that air.
So not an uptick in pics for you, but what I will say is that now that the New York City has officially sanctioned and has advocated for sending pictures of that nature instead of meeting in person, Shanali, have you changed your tune? Because you were pretty uptight.
You know what? Let me answer that question after we just share this quick little snippet from that same show.
Oh.
Do you mind sharing that? It's the next clip. I mean, it's right after that. It's 24/12.
I was like, who's
Just joking, you guys.
is he the Rojo?
He's out on the town.
Okay, all right.
He gets whoever he wants.
Oh.
Yeah, I send a dick pic like once a day.
Once a day?
Yeah,
You see how he's sweating?
to like different women or like just, okay.
All sorts of.
Okay, I will ask, do you actually send dick pics or no?
I send a shadow.
A shadow?
I'm working on an app, so I'll let you know. It's not a print. It's not, okay. It's a shadow.
It's a shadow.
Thank you, Jason.
Now, Shalewa, let me check because I'm seeing some nods, and I think that there's some.
No, if you're going to do it, I mean, look, if you're going to send it to me, let's do it artfully. Do you know what I mean?
Thank you.
Like if I'm not really asking for it, if our conversation leading up to it wasn't, I mean, but you're still missing the mark, but you're sending it to me like with like, say, a bed sheet artfully draped over it. Or
perhaps it's a bed sheet, perhaps it's a drape. I won't give away my secrets, but the pic I will send, you'd be like, is that from the MoMA? You know what I'm saying?
I mean, let's zhuzh it up a little.
Yes.
I mean, I mean, I'm not against the sending them or receiving them. I mean, it's definitely. I mean, I would usually I would think you should probably wait for me to go, yeah, let's go on and see it. But if you didn't hear that, if you think you heard that from me in another sentence and you sent it to me, I need to decide if was I really moving in that direction or not. But I for sure want it done, like and I don't want harsh lights. Look, I got a ring light to do Zoom meetings. You could do the same for your dick. It's the least you could do.
I'm with you.
A soft white, you put a scarf over a 60-watt, do something.
You know how she is with the scarf. Just throw on a scarf.
Yeah, just throw a scarf. I mean, let's diffuse the light a little.
And that changes the context of everything. If it's artfully done, Christian, this is where I'm going to support you. It's not pre-pandemic, but during the pandemic. These are dire times. Like, people are in desperate places. And instead of it becoming seemingly offensive to get a willy-nilly, dick pic, but now to get a statistically, time and effort put into the photo of the nude.
You got nothing but time.
That's what I'm saying.
You got nothing but time. These aren't rushed. You're not in some public bathroom trying to, do a burst and get like 10 in one shot. Go on and do it nice. And you're probably saving someone's life.
Thank you. So we're with you, Christian.
Okay, first of all, this is not an issue that I'm don't put this in. I'm not
That's
gonna
a
run
shame
on this
because
as
you've
my
got some
platform.
very nice lighting going on now.
That's right. That's right.
So,
the mood lighting going. We know what the shadow is all about. We see that shadow comes into play.
All right, moving right along.
Yes. All right, so moving on. We're moving away from the pandemic. What we wanted to talk about is one of the biggest movements that have come out within the last 8 years was the Me Too movement. Mm-hmm. And we were lucky enough to have, we had a bunch of fierce female journalists on our show. And one of them is, we have so many, but I just want to say that was such a meaningful happening in our time frame that we're still dealing with it. I think Harvey Weinstein just got didn't he just get sentenced only
sentenced, or the trial was
he got sentenced, right? He came back in because
yes,
I love this is right. How distracted we are, right? That would have been the biggest news story.
Right.
Yeah, when did that happen? When did this happen?
So it happened 2 months ago. He had to go to court to get sentenced. I know that before that he got a guilty verdict, right? We got that, and then he went out and hung out at a bar or whatever. We saw that where the comedians there flipped out and said, "Why are you here?" Thank God. But cut to our guests, and our guests come from so many different worlds. But we did have a guest. She was a freelance foreign correspondent in Afghanistan. She also is an award-winning, journalist now here. But the thing that we were talking to her about then is the courage for these journalists. And she, I mean, they're women, but they're also outing and talking to men, dangerous men, And for her story, we were talking about a story she was going to write on a friend of hers who also is a journalist who was murdered when she went to visit the subject of an interview she was going to do. It was a submarine scientist. It was a big story here in New York. She got dismembered on a boat during the time she was supposed to be interviewing a man for an article. And, So here is Mei Zhang, and she is talking about that article.
That whole event. I mean, it obviously is horrifying.
I mean, just between like us three,
yeah,
that really ignited, or sort of precipitated a kind of a crisis in confidence in terms of what it is, this thing that we're doing. Where I think there's a section in the story. I don't know if it is still there, if it got edited, I forget. But so much of reporting is just being at the mercy of other people, and hoping that they're kind and that they won't murder you, and it's a real sort of it's a really intense sort of trust building exercise, and to for them to trust you, it has to be reciprocal. So of course you're very open, and if they say, you know, hop into my car, do you want to ride, or do you want to come over? I mean, yeah, you say yes to absolutely everything. I mean, I always joke about how my sort of platonic ideal reporting experience, if I'm writing a profile of you, is that, you know, you invite me over to your house, and I go hang out, and we
with your hand on your
bond
head
all night. We drink everything. You tell me all your secrets. You pass out. I tuck you in, and then I see myself out. Like, that's what I want.
Wow, that's very immersive. I mean, damn.
I was about to say come over, but I'm like, okay, maybe not. Not gonna take my NyQuil with you, May.
Christian,
I still stand by that statement.
I could see you hanging out though. You and May, you get along well. But May is she's got such an amazing disposition. You see her; she's this petite, young journalist, and she's taken on some really, really scary. Her jobs, the reporting that she's done is, and that's why I think of her as such a phenomenal writer. But that story about her idea of interviewing her ideal platonic, you know, relationship with the subject of who she's talking to for an article is so funny to think that that's the mentality. So you're sort of going into the setting, and like she said, you're at the mercy, you know, of the person you're talking to. It's you know, telling of the times. Women are the ones that will change this world, and their strength is what is exposing all these truths right now. Not only them, well, then when it comes to Me Too, they're the first ones to have spoken to us and told their story. But that story is such a crazy story, and Jasper was reading something out loud. Come over here. Come over here. Come over here. So Jasper started reading out loud. He's like, here's this. Hurry, you're on.
Better come now, Jasper.
All right.
Okay, tell us.
What I read was that Weinstein is still in jail. He said he was going to appeal. He got like 23 years. He still away, has like a trial in LA that he hasn't done yet. And he got COVID in jail.
Ooh.
And they isolated him. He didn't have symptoms, and apparently he's recovering.
Ooh, I didn't know that last part. See that whole story.
Wow, Jazzy, you came in with some tea. Thank you for that. We have to have you on more often.
I got my own research team over here. If you guys have any questions on Facebook, we have someone doing research during the show. Christian covered up.
I'm just fixing my lighting. Don't worry about it.
Oh, very important. I get it.
The Shalewa, you remember the time where, and that goes back to Weinstein being in that club when the comedians spotted him and addressed him. Have you ever thought about what you would have done in that moment if you're on stage and you saw him?
Oh, I would hope that I would have seen him beforehand, because I wouldn't have gone up.
Yeah,
I don't think I would have gone up.
Yeah, you would have left. I would. I mean.
Yeah, I don't, because I'm not. I would need to be instantly furious, but then I would also worry about being funny. Like, I'd want to roast them, but I don't like roasting people, because when I do that, I want them to cry. Ooh. I want them to run out of wherever we are, like crying. I want them to rethink everything they've ever done in their life. I want them to call their parents. I want them to really suffer. So
wait, hold up, Shalewa, hold up, because
we have firsthand witnesses. We have firsthand witnessed this, Christian.
What?
We have firsthand witnessed.
Oh yeah, well yes, we have, but we've witnessed the intervention piece of it. But I want to touch on this roasting, this whole the whole, because it sounds like you really go in. Now I know there's that show on Comedy Central where people like roast like their friends, like celebrities roast their frenemies kind of thing, and it seems like kind of fun, but also like a little like uncomfortable.
It's a little
when you're talking about like roasting, are you talking about like people that you don't know, or like just like public figures, or like
no, they would have
apply that. Do you even apply that philosophy to like people that you're friends with? When you
they would have to be people who. That's the thing is, if I like you, I don't want to say anything bad about you. If you've done something that's upset me, then we'll talk about it. Do you know what I mean? So, and if we are friends, which is normally what the situation is in comedy roasting now, and I guess traditionally, it's a friendly type of thing, and you're just kind of roasting what they do, or I think elements about them that that you're comfortable talking about. But I wouldn't want people talking about elements of me like that, and I try to hang out with people who wouldn't do that and wouldn't want that done. With comedians, because some of it is you're not actually friends with them. You know what I mean? You're just two comedians who've been paired together, and you guys have like a text conversation where you're like, oh, well, tell me about yourself. Oh, well, I did this and my dad does this or something. And then you go off and then you write kind of mean-spirited. I'm not big on that roasting culture because it's kind of mean-spirited about people who are kind of strangers. The one time I did a roast, it was me and Courtney Farrington, because we agreed that, not that we wouldn't be hard on each other, but that we would be comfortable with whatever the other person said, because we have an understood line as to what we would cross in front of a bunch of strangers. Why would I put my business out in front of a bunch of strangers? So I wouldn't want to go after someone like that. So for me, in order for me to be that level of mean that a lot of people are when roasting and funny, I would need to want to destroy you.
Thank you so much for that deep dive, Shalewa. And Shanali, just keep that in mind. Keep all of that in mind when you're roasting. When you're roasting me, Shanali.
That's segues right into our next clip, because this is another woman who's an award. She's a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist, and she won a Pulitzer Prize for her piece, like 2018 piece on workplace sexual harassment. She was also the lead writer on the Louis C.K. Article in the New York Times and the Russell Simmons one. She was one of them. Her name's Milena Ryzik. And here's an example of Christian and I, really, really being real. This is how we work together.
Welcomed if it is. And what I learned from our Knocking Heads is, the action I can take right now is listening. And there is action in listening, even though it feels passive and it feels like you're not even doing anything. So that's number one. But number two, I am really curious, like both two intelligent, awesome, progressive women up here I have the fortune of talking to. What do you think is next or what would you want from a good guy that wants to be supportive aside from listening?
Well, I always also deflect the word good guy. I always think that in general, I think it takes away from the actual movement. You're not a good guy or a bad guy. You're a guy, right? Because everyone wants to think of themselves as good guys. That's what I want to say. So it's already, characterizing yourself as a good guy.
Well, good in the sense that I'm acknowledging the Me Too movement. Yeah. I'm believing the stories that I'm hearing. Yeah. And I want to make the world a better place. That's great. As opposed to people who didn't believe. People are still saying that people are accusing our president
Absolutely.
as lying. So there is a distinction.
But-
It is a gradation of
But
good
that's for
and
us
bad.
to decide. That's my point.
So am I a good guy or a bad guy?
That's my point. I just feel like
hashtag you
Don't
can
ask that
never
question,
win.
just men telling us what they need to be called. Again, thank
I
you,
just,
right?
but I just said I like to think of myself as a good guy.
I know, and I just said I think of you as a guy, and then I just so this is the point. You just rattled off to me again why you are a good guy and why.
Still knocking heads.
Yeah,
I hear you loud and clear.
it
Shalewa, but
doesn't
I would
work.
love some input from our
Well,
guests.
you just had 4 women just start
I
clapping
hear,
out loud.
and we heard some guys
So-
in the audience really look at me, give me a little like.
But that's the point.
I feel you, brother.
Christian, that's the point of this moment. That is the point, right? Is questioning and asking and then listening. So, Melena, that you just.
Thank you, Jason. Jason's the woo! That moment, I can relive that moment. Woo! Because in that moment, you know, it wasn't just Christian. It was the fact that such a good friend is still, you know, attempting to describe him as what he is versus letting us decide who and what, and we're dictating that movement. That's how Christian and I get along, though. It's very much like you and Courtney. We say whatever we want to each other, and we take the time to listen. Christian, did you feel like that? You feel like, you're on mute.
Before I say anything, I want to hear Shalewa, just your off the cuff, what is your reaction to that exchange, and have you had any similar exchanges with boys in your life?
Well, I think the rough thing is, like Shalewa said, everyone wants to think that they're the good version of whatever it is that they are. And so that people are doing the correct things in their eyes to be that person. But when I do hear someone say, I'm a good guy, it's like, have you asked everyone? You know what I mean? Like, have you checked with everybody? Because we all have blind spots. I have a view of myself that sometimes it takes me being around other folks and me saying something and then reacting for me to go, oh, okay, so that's not, so I'm doing that wrong. Okay. Do you know? So that's why the hackle is up, because especially at that time, women were getting bombarded with a lot of guys just saying, but I'm fine, right? Like exes from decades ago were reaching out. I was at like a comedy, some comedy club or something, and I'm trying to eat, and I'm a guy who was also a comedian who we had only met once or twice, was talking to me about the CK situation, and he was going on and on about how it didn't seem that bad. I mean, he's a good guy, and I'm a good guy, and I mean, like, I didn't think it was all this, and I literally just wanted to eat. So it was a charged moment, but it's also just like a relentless, but I'm fine, right? I really need your validation on that. And it's like, the jury may still be out. Like, you really need to look within yourself. So I understood what Christian was saying in that moment. He was doing all the things necessary. But it's the asking, so go ahead. So knight me, and I'm a good guy. So we good, right? And I mean, everyone can be good, but you also can always be better.
Yeah, and I'm hearing all of this, and it's so interesting to hear that conversation after the fact and after some time. And I tell you, in the moment, course corrections are never any fun for anybody.
Yeah.
Especially if they're done in public.
Yeah.
Especially, and when you're having a conversation with close friends that are different from you, and you represent not only a friend to them, but you represent other things. I represent the fact that I'm a man. And sometimes listening to close friends view you in like a way that seems like very specific and very kind of one way is just a very complicated. Is very complicated.
It
and so
is.
it was very interesting. And now what I will end my comment on is that I do hear you, Shanali and Shalewa, and in the sense that it is not me to decide that value proposition. And I can attempt to do the right things and do the Women's March or do all the ally behaviors that I think are right. But at the end of the day, it is for you to ascribe what that behavior means.
And I recently had to go through, I think it was sexual harassment training at work. And one of the things that was in it that I had not really considered before, but I guess is like a cornerstone is it's not so much the intent, it's how it was received.
Exactly.
So, so even when you know the intent is good.
Right. Well, and then
great point.
Also analogous in this moment to our opening of the show where we discuss, having lots of white friends and them being needy in this time to sort of make sure that you are approving them as the white guy. It's like, I'm one of your good white friends, right?
Oh, boy.
So this is very analogous. So that's how we started the show. We were just talking about, like, for example, Christian's been hearing from friends he hasn't heard from in 10 years. Some on Juneteenth, like some actually on that day. And he's like, it's funny that you call me today and I haven't heard from you.
Man, I bet Juneteenth was so confused. Like, I think of like holidays or things, I definitely make them a person. And so I absolutely pictured Juneteenth like sitting on her couch, looking at her phone.
She was a woman to me too.
Yeah, just looking at her phone, and there are all these like "Happy Birthday, girl" messages from all these numbers that she didn't know. That had never. She's just like, "Who is this?" Her phone just blowing up for like 3 days straight, and her just being
Shalewa,
confused.
I will cast you as Juneteenth. All right. You got that role.
Yeah, just like, look, I'm used to hearing from people in Texas, but otherwise, the rest of this, like, who are these people? It was wild. I mean, like, like my roommate at his job, they were like, all right, you guys have Juneteenth off. Or like, what?
Yeah.
What? Why?
My bank was closed on this Juneteenth. I said, I don't need that.
Yeah.
Give me some.
Give me every holiday you can. Give them all to us.
I mean, I'll take it, but
I'll take it too, but give me some warning. I mean, I brought all my pennies and my change to the bank that day,
you know what I mean?
And they were closed because of Juneteenth. I said,
let me know that
twice as hard.
You're gonna do that.
Juneteenth. I mean, how is this? This is flawless. This just goes. That was the next little area we were going to discuss is that, our guest, this show, and I'm going to make sure we take credit for this. We have intentionally created a space to talk to people, all kinds of people. Many of them have been African American, and we have discussed with lots of them. Some of them are writers, comedians, musicians. But race is an issue that we've discussed, and we're fortunate enough to have a white man join us who is a Black Lives Matter activist. And he was somebody I met through comedy, and he's been, for years now, active in the movement and making big moves, or he makes sure that his voice is heard in all kinds of areas where you wouldn't expect people to be enlightened about social justice issues. And Christian even worked with him not too long ago.
I did, and for the sake of time, and I really want to encourage you all to listen to the bigger episodes that we're referencing. The conversations are super rich. Patrick Waldo is this gentleman's name, and he was introduced to me through Shanali. And he's at the forefront of the Black Lives Matter movement. This is 5 years ago, after Eric Garner, Tamir Rice, and some of the earlier deaths. He was part of a group that would go out and do these protest actions. And I joined him on one at the Armory Art Show here in New York. And it was a really incredible experience that I will not forget. But we do have a clip.
Share that picture of him on the doing the not this clip, sorry, but the actually, you know what,
let's, if it's easier, let's play the clip and then we can play some pictures later.
So laying down, recreating.
You're right. My Patagonia jacket ripped from that moment. I had to go back to the store and get it repaired. But you're right. I actually didn't know that because I'm not white. So I thought, well, my mom's white, but you're right. But that's so funny. And that's why, I value your contribution to the movement and your perspective, because you aren't black and you aren't a person of color, right? And it is unique to find somebody who's so heavily invested in something that ostensibly people would say, doesn't affect you, kind of thing.
Right.
Did you experience any kind of resistance from the activists themselves? When you first, were they questioning your motives or?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. No, I mean, when I think I started got involved in the Black Lives Matter movement, like a lot of people, after the Eric Garner.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you can go ahead. Is that me?
It paused or something.
Oh, it paused. It might have been. Can you continue to play that real quick?
Yeah, let me try it again.
Sorry, that might have been me. Apologize.
Oh.
That's right.
What's going on?
It sets up.
All right, so we have a technical difficulties. We can stop sharing the screen, and basically he continues to characterize kind of how he was being treated. And Patrick, if you're listening, we're sorry for that technical glitch, but I'll try to do my best in characterizing the conversation. Essentially, he was just talking about how his presence was being second guessed, but second guessed for good reason. There's been a long history of people like Patrick, white people and non-black people, infiltrating these various social justice movements, whether it be the nonviolence of Martin Luther King, whether it be the more proactive stance of Malcolm X or the Black Panthers. There literally is still an active arm of the either Justice Department or FBI that covers these domestic political movements, oftentimes on the left, and you're seeing that happen. They infiltrate them, and then they try to disrupt them, and they try to spread misinformation about them. And so Patrick was able to fight through that kind of perception of himself and is still on the front lines. And quite frankly, what's that?
I said, yeah, he's still on the front lines.
And quite frankly, what I will say, and Shalewa, I would be just curious to know how you feel about this, but I'm going to own this, is that, I do what I can try to do in the way that I do it in the world, whether that be through my work, whether that be through my art. And at some points in time, I have put myself on the front lines in terms of marching, going to the protest actions, etc. But I've also not always done that. And in this most recent iteration, because of various factors, I haven't gone to those marches. And what was so interesting about Patrick is that as a white person, the energy that he had activated in himself, the activist energy, him, the willingness to go put himself, and the passion that he kind of displayed was just, it really kind of, it did kind of blow me away. And it was inspiring. And so I guess my question is, as awkward as it sounds right now, Shalewa, is what's your take on the Black Lives Matter as it stands, and your take on woke white people and that?
Well, I think many black people, a few months ago, probably heard from their white friends. Just again, checking in, apologizing, not entirely sure why they're apologizing. They don't understand why, but they feel like they need to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I accepted all of the apologies.
Right.
Because no one who contacted me was someone who I thought, yeah, you better say something. But like, I also didn't necessarily feel the need to educate. I have to do a lot of listening myself, because anti-Blackness is insidious, and it's in everyone who has been raised in America in some level. And so I have already been trying to work on how it may show up in me, and how to reverse whatever that engineering is.
That's very deep. That's very,
yeah,
very
it's tough to like even admit, but you have to, because it's a part
I'm so
of you.
happy that you talk about it and that you're willing to share that. And honestly, like the work that we all need to do in ourselves to unpack and to deconstruct and to dismantle this messaging that we've gotten over hundreds and hundreds of years is absolutely true. So, and we unless we do that work, we're not going to be effective changing either.
Yeah. Just being Black is not enough.
Right.
You know, visually, that's not enough. You have to really.
Can I get a hashtag?
Like you can be Black and be anti-Black. Lots of people are.
Oh yeah.
So you need to be Black and pro-Black. Woo. So that's the,
and can we just clarify, being pro-Black is not being anti-white.
Anti-white. Not at all. Not at all. It's just being pro you. Pro you and your family and your people. Because of our particular situation of how we got here, it would behoove you to be pro-Black, because that's who's gonna that's who's gonna be on your side. Hopefully, if you
I love that word choice. It would behoove all of you to
like
be
pro-Black. Where is being anti getting you?
Right.
But you need to also identify where in your life you have been anti or you are currently. And so that's the work. Yeah, that's work. And it could even be something that just feels, it could even be in meme form, just plenty of jokes, plenty of stereotypes that are just like, hey, but we're not all, that's not what we're about, but it's been cemented. And you've got to break that up. And so there's a lot of work that I'm doing with me. So when hearing from white people, it was like, okay, you guys definitely have some reading to do. I hope you continue it. I do hope you continue it. But I'm not going to be able to hold your hand on that, because we all of us have work to do.
Yeah. And in terms of,
I didn't really say much either. I didn't throw book suggestions or anything. I saw a lot of white people did.
I did, because, and this has been me for a long time, because I'm so tired of watching my Black friends have to do this work.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely took this as a vacation.
Yeah, and I mean, this is me for the long haul. Also, it's right. This is where Patrick is someone who I think is a standout, but he shouldn't be. It should be that way. The problem is not with being Black. The problem is with the minds of a dominating race over someone that's a different color, right? You know what I mean?
Right. It's not a Black problem. It's a white problem, and they gotta work on it.
I really appreciate Patrick's passion, and I definitely encouraged everybody in that episode to take this challenge of like stepping up. And now we can say it right now, take this challenge as something that is actually liberating for you. It is something that helps not just Black people, but you too, right? And we can't all be free until everyone's free, right? We're not. And so it should be, and I feel that way, is that when we do step up and stand up, and especially, on the week after John Lewis's passing, someone who's lived this truth, is we should all be stepping up, speaking out about injustice. It's the only way all of us will ultimately be better,
Yep.
Preach, right? Let's preach.
Why not? Your show.
Let's this gentleman is someone, when I first came to New York, he is a musician I saw at Pete's Candy Store, and he had on like some kind of glitter outfit. He had his keyboard, and he's this gorgeous man with long black hair. He's African American. He when he started singing, he had like an operatic, stunning, crazy voice that blew me away. So I was so excited years later to get him on our show. And let me intro the clip because what we're reacting.
And he's also black.
Wait. Jason, wait just a second. Let me talk about.
And Shalewa, he's also black.
Yeah, I said he's African American.
Okay.
I pointed that out because he's African American with long black hair.
Yes.
Gorgeous. I have long black hair, so I'm biased. But the thing that we talked about everything, the black experience and how it affects his music. He was talking about Black death being a constant in this country. He also talked about not wanting to be liked. He was not about the story of progress and not about like allowing that to be the story, because we're always facing this, like he says, slow death nonstop. And so he coined himself, and first of all, his music, his last album was called Funeral Doom Spiritual. And this, what he coins himself is a Negro, Gothic, devil-worshipping, free black man in the blues tradition. And that's riffing on Cornel West's Jesus-loving free black man. So responding to Christian asking him about this moniker. Okay, Jason.
Term Negro and black.
Yes.
Free black, I guess. And
free black man.
With
yeah.
Negro.
Negro Gothic.
Negro Gothic. So I mean, a lot of black Americans don't use that word anymore.
Oh yeah.
So what's behind that? Like
I'm interested. I like the historicization of it. I like, again, I don't think that I'm not interested in the story of progress, right? That so much of how people like to tell the American story is about like women were oppressed, and then there's this new thing, or black people were. I mean, certainly we were in slavery and we're not now. I mean, but there was but as we were talking about earlier, there are certain things that are consistent in terms of certain kinds of black death. And so I'm not so much invested in a story of progress or a story of my interest is in
No.
Shoot, what's going on? Internet's not working?
Doesn't like our lip sync.
What is
it's gonna make people go back and listen to
He continues, I wonder what that is. It's weird, it's just playing a few seconds. But he goes on to say that it's great. It captured really.
Yeah, it did.
And he goes into talking about Viola Davis and saying how he loves the fact that she says she doesn't want to be liked. She wants to do an interesting character. She wants to, and he said, where are the black protagonists? Like, where are the black villains? Like, why do we not see them? Like, he wants blackness to embrace everything so that we don't have to like deal with saying that there's progress in order for it to seem like things are better. Christian responded.
Yeah, and are we gonna play?
Oh yeah, no. And I also remember when he was like in the blues tradition, because he was talking about how the blues was a reaction to emancipation. And that's a part of what his music is about too.
Totally. And I mean, now that we're hearing it, and given everything that we are
got it. That was March 27th, 2017.
Mm-hmm. 3 years after Eric Garner.
Yep.
Kind of right in this middle point. Now we have Trump in office. But what's so interesting, I was so heavily influenced, I think, in my own upbringing and also just my affinity toward Obama. And I'm kind of hardwired for hope. I'm hardwired to like, yeah, we're going to get better. We're making things better. But I think what was so clear with M. Lamar's art and his perspective as an artist is that everything that I'm giving hope toward is really cosmetic in this country, in the sense that the deeper structural and deeper tragedies still happen day in and day out, as much they were happening back when Jim Crow, back as much as they are now. And it just, his perspective was just so important and accurate. And oh my God, I just did Giuliani eyes. I just did those crazy. Sorry, everybody. But I just, it really is amazing to listen to these artists who are so fierce in their moment, and so ahead of their time.
Yes. Yes.
At least for me.
His sister is on the show Orange is the New Black, Laverne, and he talks about her success being mainstream success, and that he's not on to it. Like, he's like, I'm not interested in crossing over to make money. You know, I may be financially more successful, but I'm not. He's into being a provocateur. That's him. You know, I appreciate that too, because so much of us are thinking about, especially as performers, like, what's the next? What's the next? What's the next? And I think the show is definitely not about that. It's about this, right? Being real. Shalewa, did you have anything?
No, I got nothing to say. That dude covered it. I got nothing to say.
Okay. All right. This one is, we're going to go to Jeremy O'Hara, who is also a Black artist, and he is a playwright who wrote the Broadway play, Slave Play. It was so controversial.
Which took New York by storm.
Yeah, it did. He's all over. He's like a model in Vogue too. One of the few Black people that are in Vogue. But we talked about a lot of serious things, but this was pretty funny because he actually is a fan of comedy. So, Jason, will you play that?
Told him that you were also a fan.
Oh my God.
So there you go. He knows. He knows about you now.
Can I say one weird thing about Mr. Show in case he listens to this?
Yeah.
It's really crazy. So my roommates were these really stoner white boys.
Yes.
And they were great friends by the end of my first year of college, but I really hated them because I was like the nerd that came there who's like, I don't drink and I don't smoke weed and I don't like the way this smells. And they got really mad at me because I threw away a jug one day and they were like, that was our gravity. And I was like, what? Gravity's all around. What are you talking about? And then I realized that it was a weird bomb. Anyway, they would watch Mr. Show and I was like, I don't get this shit. It's white nonsense. It makes no sense. I fucking hate this. And then they gave me their gravity bong one day, and it was a day when I was like, you know what? Let me try to be cool.
Yeah.
So I had it, and I watched this one sketch with them 3 different times. It was the story of Mount Everest.
Yes.
I'd seen that sketch 3 times, and every time I was like, I hate this. And then I watched it that time, and I was like, oh my God, this is commedia.
It's great.
And I was like, this is actually avant-garde theater.
It is.
HBO let them film.
Do it, yes.
And then sober, I was able to see it through that lens, and it became my favorite show. I was like,
That's such a perfect description of how. Oh my.
Thank you. Did you ever watch that show, Shalewa, Mr. Show?
Okay, so I had kind of a similar thing in that everyone around me loved the show. And I didn't have HBO, so I was just like, well, y'all love all of that stuff. Y'all love Oz, y'all love Mr. Show, y'all love all of it. I don't know what you're talking about. But at some point the technology trickled down and I was able to, maybe I rented a couple of discs or so, or someone gifted me a set or something. And so I'm like, all right, well, let's watch it. And I watched the first 2 episodes and I maybe chuckled twice. And I was like, all right, I see what they're doing. Okay. And so I guess I'm into the 3rd, maybe it's the 3rd episode or something. And it's starting and I'm still not freaking out. And I thought, what if I'm the one? What if I'm the one that doesn't like Mr. Show. And I kind of started to get excited about the idea of not being the one that's just like, I mean, it's, you know, like I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And then they did something, and then David did something where he broke the fourth wall and went out into the crowd and did a thing. And I cracked up and I was like, God damn it, this is actually but I haven't watched it all the way through.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm still like, I'm sure it is hilarious, but I didn't have any, help from gravity.
Maybe that's what you need, Shalewa.
No, because that would make me hate everything. So I know already gravity does not help my enjoyment of things.
Shalewa, I was in Atlanta. We were in Atlanta when that was on, and I remember it's a lot of our mutual friends.
Oh yeah. There's a cabal. There's a Mr. Show cabal, and we know everybody in it.
And that's sort of how. And so they played it, and it's true. At first, I was like, you sit back and you go, okay. And
also, it's like why I'm not big on Monty Python, because too many people said it was the best thing in the world, and you can't let me watch it and see if it jibes with me. So that's what I thought with Mr. Show. It's just like, well, I mean, these people are probably right. I enjoy it when they talk, but then I was watching it and I'm like, man, I got so excited when I thought I wasn't going to like it.
It sounded like Jeremy did too, but then all of a sudden,
I love when he calls it white nonsense.
White people nonsense.
It kind of is. But I also agree that I enjoy white people nonsense.
Yeah, and so does a playwright who's at the forefront of American theater and African American theater. And what I love about our show, and what I love about having folks like you on and everyone, is that it gives us a chance to see how complicated people are. And, a lot of folks that went to go see Jeremy's provocative play, The Slave Play, made a lot of assumptions about what he likes and what he doesn't like. And they would be surprised to hear that little anecdote.
Definitely. And there was no part of me holding back. I sent that to David Cross immediately.
Shonali, when do you ever hold back?
Of course, yeah. Well, are you serious? Well, but yeah, you want a white person to hear that someone called their stuff white nonsense. A white comedian who is on top of the world often, he loved it. I mean, he loved it. He could take it. Thank you, Shalewa, for sharing that, because that story, to me, I was like, oh, she's going to understand this, because I didn't quite not like it at first, but I definitely was like not moved. You're right. Like I just sat there for a while.
Yeah.
A lot of our mutual rock and roll white guys.
Yeah. I mean, we trafficked in a very particular kind of white people. So our tolerance of white nonsense is high. It's sky high. So like we can take it, but I mean it's gonna have to be good, because we're mucking around in it for a long time. So yeah, it needs to be quality.
Shalewa, we have a few more, if you would stick around with us, we want to share before the show is over, but we want to thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your perspective.
Absolutely.
It's awesome. You're like our dream person to be with us going through this.
It's not easy to join this duo, but you really
y'all are nuts.
made it.
But I fully enjoy it. I fully enjoy being here with both of you.
This one is about marijuana, and the reason there's many reasons why I'm excited about this, but I have never been a pot smoker, and I've been surrounded, again, when we were in Atlanta, we were around a lot of stoners, and maybe that's just the way the world is. Maybe everyone is a stoner, and I just didn't know. I thought we were with a select group of people that got stoned a lot. I think.
Yeah. As it turns out, right now, the way the world is set up, you and me and my sister may be the only people not smoking pot. We may be the only ones. So
I think you're right. Well, we had this guest. She's a writer, and she's so cool. She's a little younger than us, and she's still into the same music that we're in, and she's African American. So she has really good taste, and she has a website called Hi, How Are You? And you, I think you've met her before.
I have, yeah.
So she's like created this website, and it's really focused on women who smoke cannabis, and in hopes of taking the stigma away. And we even talked about marijuana even being justification for death, and talked about Trayvon Martin, and we talked about how with Black people there is a stigma attached to it. But we did get to this funny part of the conversation. Jason, you want to try it one more time and see what happens? This is Jamila Zara, and she was on in May 2019. Here's Jamila.
Always Black and Latino people who are like suffering from that. So like I want them to pass it in a way that California hasn't, and that Washington State hasn't, and like all these states that have fucked up, because if New York passes it, number one, will be the biggest cannabis city in the world as far as consumption, but then also will be the gold standard for how other states follow. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's important. So I definitely think breaking stigma is important, but I also feel like my connection to weed is kind of like, for all my hipsters out there, when you have a band that you love, and then next thing you know, they become popular, and they have this one hit, and everybody's like, oh, we love them. And you're like, man, I listened to them back in the... That's how I feel about weed, because it's like, now you see... on Instagram, there's all these women with these cannabis brands, and they're all white women, and they're all in a field, like hemp field, and like a daisy dress, smoking weed, and I'm just like,
that's how I feel about yoga.
Fuck you. Yes.
This is how Indian people feel about yoga.
Yes.
If you notice when you go to yoga classes, you'll never see an Indian person take.
Thank you, Jason. That's it.
Don't get Chanel started on yoga.
No, but she said it. She's talking about marijuana, because she said she started at a young age where she didn't even know it was illegal. It was like just cigarettes. She said Black people cigarettes. So
I thought that was Newport.
Really, you listening out there? That made Shalewa laugh. And when she said that to us, we were dying too. I was like, wow, that's so cool. She didn't know it's illegal. Like, that's the world that she's living in. She even...
That's wild.
It was so... And then, but the feeling of having an ownership of that sort of space, I thought was really funny, because we've all been there. We've all felt that. Like Nashville's super hip now. I am possessive of people moving there and being like, oh yeah, Nashville's so cool, and I'm like, you've been there 30, people have been there 2 months and say that. I'm like, you don't really know it like I do. I'm sure, we have that with Atlanta. I have that with yoga as an Indian person. I have definitely gone to classes. I'm like, they're not feeling it like my Indian yogi did. Nope. But the other thing about this conversation we got out was that Christian has a marijuana laugh.
No. Time out. Some people think or thought I had, like very specific old people thought I did.
Yeah.
So let's be clear about that, Shalewa.
Tell her real quick.
What does that mean?
When I was in college and I had dreadlocks, my white uncle.
So already that's a problem, right? I mean.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
One of my white uncles was at my grandparents' house for Christmas, and in between the main course dinner and dessert, this uncle said, Christian, can I see you in the garage? And that never happens. Like, I've never been asked to go meet someone in the garage. And so, part of me was like, oh, we about to go, get in a little scythe, you know what I'm saying? No, I didn't think that. No, of course
Right.
I didn't. But this uncle, he's like, Christian, I've been noticing some things about you lately, and don't think I haven't noticed. I hear that marijuana laugh that you have. And I said, what? He's like, oh, I hear the marijuana laugh. And I don't think my laugh has changed that much between now and then. And marijuana may or may not have a little bit to do with it, but not a lot. So.
You're like, you mean my real laugh?
My real laugh, my hearty laugh.
I mean, it's possible that maybe your uncle just didn't know joy.
I think you're right.
I wish I had you as my holiday guest.
Oh boy, yeah, that's why you
come to the garage with me.
Yeah, that's why you don't want to.
Something.
You don't want to take me anywhere. You don't want to take me anywhere.
Oh.
I mean, my common refrain was, "You got a smart mouth, girl." So you don't want me nowhere near any family member that you may love.
Oh, well, we're gonna make sure we have to recognize our first guest ever. That was
yes.
The first guest we ever had on this show was July 26th, 2012, and he is my bandmate. He's also a partner with me with Little Lamb Recordings, in which we were so honored to put out Shalewa's most recent album, So You Just Out Here. It's an amazing album. You guys need to get it. But he's back behind this panel. We wanted him to come say hi real quick. His name is Jason Lamb.
Hey, look at Jason!
Hey.
Dressed up for us.
I was truly bracing for what was going to happen when he came on.
Hi.
Wow, man! Thank you for dressing up for us, Jason.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Jason, we were honored to have you as our first guest.
Jason, is that a bow tie, or does that have another effect?
It lights up.
Oh, it lights up.
But the battery is dead.
Oh.
Okay.
Right. Use it for blinks.
Shalewa can't deal.
That speaks to how festive he is. When the batteries in your light up bow tie die, like you're out there.
He's definitely ready to celebrate our anniversary with us. Cheers, Jason. Thank you. Cheers to you, all of you. I just, I'm just going to give some of the highlights from the show that he was on.
Sure.
It was the very first show. And Jason came to us during the episode where we discussed Fort Tilden, tattoos and titties, the hipster Riviera, the New York City soda ban, David Cassidy, Jason Lamb's food blog, Me So Hungry, his new mashups, his passion. He's a huge Tim Tebow fan. Those were the topics we discussed. Anything?
That was a long time ago.
Yeah. Are you?
Jason, has anything changed since then?
No food blog.
No food blog.
Blog's gone. Well, I blog, but anonymously.
Wow. Okay.
Was there any reason for that? Were you starting to get a lot of hate mail to that Me So Hungry blog?
No, I got tired of doing it. But then I started doing it anonymously, so I don't know how that.
I don't get. What about the Tim Tebow aspect?
He's out of the news. I did read an article yesterday about him.
Okay.
It wasn't that interesting, but so I won't repeat at the end.
You don't have Tim Tebow shoes. You don't have the cutout that you had.
No, it's all gone.
Wow, things have changed big time. And then what about the mashups? Are you still doing music like that?
I do no mashups, but I have like a new album with my little brother.
Oh, amazing!
It's his name is Jiminy.
Jason and Jiminy. Yes, that's
and
it.
There he
is. That's Jiminy.
This is my brother Jiminy.
Jasper. That's Jiminy.
I have not seen Shalewa put her hands in her head more times.
And Shalewa, Jiminy can sing, and
I'm sure Jiminy can. See, now this is what I was expecting.
Yeah,
Jiminy can do a lot of things, Shalewa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like haunt me. Jiminy can definitely haunt my
It
dreams.
is it's definitely a nightmare situation. But if you listen to the music, it'll change your feelings because he has such a sweet voice, Jiminy. He's so super cute, and they really love each other. They're brothers. Yeah.
Wow, Shalewa, you seem like you're a really big fan, so that's great.
Everybody needs to look for that Jason and Jiminy album. Justin, if you're out there, if you could put the link for the Jason and Jiminy album in our feed, that would be awesome. Yeah. So Jason, how can people get your album?
It's on Spotify.
Okay.
And Apple Music.
How
it's basically it's free if you have those subscriptions to them.
Okay. So how's the reception been? People really into it?
I get comments on YouTube, and I've been putting like YouTube ads out, and so I get comments on those, and a lot of them are like, "What the fuck did I just watch?" Oh wait, I'm not supposed to curse. Sorry.
No, we're 18 plus, Jason. It's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. Well, so it's positive, but it's positive in how I thought it would work out. So it's good.
Do you have any live shows planned? Any concerts, remote concerts planned?
I'm working on trying to get him to this thing to talk right now, like how to make his mouth move.
Yeah.
So once I figure that out, we can do
this
live
thing.
shows.
I think he's your brother. Do you always refer to him as this thing? That's a little
your
rude.
brother.
No, that's rude. Sorry.
Yeah, that's not right.
No, that checks out. That's what you call a sibling.
Sister is listening. I hope she's listening right.
She's not. She has absolutely no.
She's not.
She's like, whatever. Do your little shows.
Do your little shows.
Jiminy and Jason, thank you so much for being with us, and thank you for being
Thank you for supporting. And I was saying Shalewa's best dressed, but I have to say, Jason.
No. I mean, I wasn't. I'm not. You're not topping Jason.
Unless you have a choker.
I mean, I do, but do we want to relive all of that? I don't think we do. I've already spent too much time watching clips of 120 minutes on YouTube. A choker, after you watch like 30 minutes of it, a choker just appears on your neck. So.
Oh, Shalewa, our last topic of the night is comedy. And, you know, we've had so many amazing guests. Obviously, you're one of them. But, you know, there are, I mean, this city, I'm going to say, has the best comedians in the world. Mm-hmm. And we're so lucky because we all live in a relatively small city so that we all can do shows. And so one of them, and I remember this because he was running around like you usually do when we didn't have a pandemic, show to show. His name's Nori Davis. I know you know him. Mm-hmm. And we had talked about, one thing was his dad was a cop. I remember that. And he shared sort of his dad's take on there are good cops and bad cops, and you know, it's all about power. I remember that. Christian, you talked to him about it.
Yeah.
And just dealing with that in terms of the Black Lives Matter movement. But we also asked, which is a question I want to ask you too, but I always think about families dealing with a comedian in the family, like the relationship that your aunt and uncle have with you, or your mom and dad. And in this little clip, I asked Nori about his parents and what if they had believed that he had become a successful comedian because he was on late night, which I always think late night, that's it. You know, you're done, you're set. So Jason, do you mind sharing with us that clip of Nori Davis? Yeah.
She wasn't, no, I ain't taking that.
You know how there's those moments where you imagine, what is the thing that your mom or dad will appreciate in terms of your career? That's what for me, like, what's that moment?
Yeah, I mean.
And I would think late night is like.
I mean, even that, they're just baby boomers, but like they black old school baby boomers where it's just like, look, let me just work. All you gotta do is work, get an education, and get a job and shut the fuck up. That's all you do. I want to be an artist. I don't know what that is. That sounds like there's no security. That's what they all about, that job security, you know, that watch. I mean, which is not their fault. I mean, but that's what their parents taught them. Like, get an education.
Right.
Get a job. You shut up.
I love that. I love that. That's it. I mean, I think that's basic. That's very basic for most parents, you know. What about your family? When you, because you decided, like we've discussed, coming here, you didn't come into comedy until later in your life, right?
Mhm.
It was like,
Yeah.
and so was that something that everyone was like, okay, Shalewa, you do what you do, or
Yeah, no, for sure. I told my parents when I started doing comedy, I told them, yeah, I'm starting to do stand-up comedy. And they were just like, yeah, sure you are. Like, why wouldn't you do that? Absolutely you are.
This is
All right.
true. This is
But you know, I mean, they've heard my capers before. I'm working at a porn store. All right, baby, pay your bills. You know, I do a zine. I write a zine. Okay. Whatever that is. So yeah, so they definitely they're used to my capers.
Right.
I'm marrying a vibrator. All right, we'll be there. You know, we'll bring the cake. You know, they were very supportive. But there was something about, I mean, when I started doing comedy and I just kind of hit it hard, my dad one time asked me what my end goal was, which he had not asked me about any of the other wild things that I was doing. He was like, so what's your end goal? And I said, I think it's a book deal. And he said, okay. And that made sense to him because I used to write a lot of stories. As a kid, I was always writing stories. So he was like, okay. And so then when I said, I think I'm going to move to, when I told him first, I think I'm going to move to New York just to see what this comedy thing can do. And he just went, cool. So they were very supportive. Now they'd only, I don't know, like it was just the two of them in that house. So they probably were figuring out YouTube and found clips of me telling jokes or whatever. But I did show them a clip once and then left the room. Can't be in there while they're watching that. And so they enjoyed it. My mother passed away before she could see me live. Because she wasn't able to leave the house. She was disabled and whatnot. My dad was her caretaker. So my dad only got to see me once before he passed away. And that was when I recorded my first album.
Wow.
So, yeah. So, and when I asked him what he thought about it, of the whole thing, and it was a very emotional thing because I recorded that album like 2 days after my mom's memorial service. I have a very long joke about me having an abortion and the aftermath. He was learning about that. Like he learned a lot about his oldest. And I said, so what'd you think? And he was like, well, you really seem to know what you're doing up there. And that was it. And I'm like, all right, so the main concern is my child making a fool of herself? Oh, she's not? Okay, carry on.
Yeah.
Carry on. Yeah, just as long as she's like,
carry
as long as
on.
she's not making a fool of herself, then I think that's fine.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
That's
funny
awesome.
how maybe like we set ourselves, the standards are low because it's just like, okay, he's okay because he thinks I'm not making a fool of myself.
Right. I'm like, okay, that's great. So, I mean, he probably found it funny. I think he thought he was also a funny dude. So I think he thought it was great that I was doing it. But and he told others as such that I heard later. I heard back later. But yeah, I think it was just as long as you're not making a, but for the most part, like family's not really impressed. And I like with whatever you're doing. I don't know if Shonali, if you encountered that when you're on tour and you're doing stuff and you're like, hey, we just signed with this label, and your parents are like, that's nice. Like they don't, you know what I mean? Like they don't.
It's like
not,
my parents are supportive of whatever it is, but I don't think they understand. Like they love this show. My mom actually is, yeah. But I just remember that was that one time she was watching. It was Jennifer Lopez on a show, and she was swinging on a swing in a bodysuit. And this is way before.
Yeah.
Dated as a singer, you know.
Right.
So when I watched it at the same time, I was like, oh, this is pretty bad. And my mom calls me and we were talking. She was like, I am seeing Jennifer Lopez and one day that will be you. And
right. They don't quite get it. Yeah.
No. I'm good. I got my guitar on stage. I don't need to be on the swing.
So they're supportive, and then they just want to be supportive of you. I think parents can sense when you're actually serious.
Yeah.
Even if you don't know if you're serious, they can sense. They can sense it, which is why my dad asked what my end game was.
Sure. And that's a really good question.
Yeah. Like, okay, he saw in me, you seem to be taking this seriously.
Right.
Are you? Because I can tell that this means a lot to you. So let me ask you to see if I'm right. And in him asking me, I was like, oh yeah, I actually want to do this. And he was like, bet. Okay. So you do want to, yeah. He also.
When this is over, I'm going to be asking you that question.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, I was like, this is a good question. Shalewa was giving us good questions. We're friends. We can have that conversation. We got to talk about our end games. Our end game.
I mean, right now it's just.
My end game is to survive.
Yeah, my end game is to be the old person at the beginning of the movie about what we're going through. Where the kids are just like, old lady Silky on the block, she's so weird. She just sits outside in a rocking chair with a mask on. Why? And then two brave kids walk up to me and they ask me, and then I say some nonsense and I pull my mask to the side and then I go, it was 2020. And then I tell the story of these COVIDian times, and then,
And then the final line is, and that's why they call me Silky.
Right, exactly. And then I put the mask on and I shoo them away. Of course, they were sitting like 6 feet away from me. I was like, not too close, like that kind of thing.
Oh my God.
So that's my current
putting the air conditioner on and off, you guys. I don't know how you're doing with the heat out there.
I've been keeping my AC off for the sake of our fans.
You know what? Someone just asked about my records. I'm just gonna pull out a record.
We definitely have time for that.
I know. I just want to see. It's a Grand Funk Railroad record. I've never listened to it, I don't think. So that's what's back here. There's lots of soul, jazz, country, everything.
And a lot of records that Shalewa hasn't even listened to.
It's actually very rare that there's a record that I haven't listened to, just so you know.
Just happened to pull one out.
Ooh, it's hot. Okay. we got, this was something real quick. I wanted to bring up how we can be ridiculously silly. And this is a place where we have real talk, as I've talked to Shalewa about a lot. And one of the things that's been a running theme that I've noticed is always makes me laugh especially, is if we talk about, and this is, lowest common denominator, we talk bowel movements, we talk farts, we talk gas.
Speak for yourself. Speak for yourself.
Okay, he's the only person in the world that doesn't think a fart's funny. Okay, but this conversation we had, it was with Sean Patton. He'd just been asking me about my husband, Jasper, who you guys have seen. He was on here earlier. And I was saying that, I woke up one morning and he was up. He usually reads on the couch. And I heard this sound. And I said, I remember it woke me up. And I just went, is your fart a question mark? That's what it sounded like. I was like, did you just ask me a question with your fart? That's how it literally was like.
You're getting a real deep insight in terms of how Shalewa's brain works.
This is how we're taking
and how Jasper. So in the prior to that, Shalewa, had you communicated to Jasper with your own farts?
I mean, I'm sure. I mean, I don't know. He's not creative enough to ask me that question.
We don't know that. He's an artist.
I mean, I said it out loud. No, Lewa, I said it out loud. I woke up he was in another room, and I was just like, I just asked out loud, and we laughed so hard. So anyway, cut to Sean. Sean was definitely not impressed with the audience reaction to my comments. He definitely was like, are you guys serious? You don't think farts are funny? So Jason, can you share Sean Patton, comedian Sean Patton, February 2019?
Good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. And I would say.
What do you think about the love?
I do a lot. Love is great. I also think there is a fart for every type of punctuation.
Thank you. Thank you.
So when she said question mark, I was shocked.
Right?
You fuckers acted like you don't know what that sounds like.
Exactly. Thank you. Right? You knew exactly what I was talking about. Thank you.
Like and then like the period is just that. And then the fucking
That's right. Exclamation mark.
A colon. I mean, pun intended. It's a little firmer. A semicolon's it's got like exclamation point is obvious.
No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. Oh!
Yes.
We can even get into umlaut if you want.
What's a semicolon?
See, this is my brother. Thank you.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
I have to say, I encourage. This is where a line's gonna be drawn. I encourage farting early in a relationship.
You know what? It's never not happened to me. It's just the way it is in good relationships. That's what happens.
Yeah. I feel like it's like you show the person right away your soft underbelly in the form of that toot, and you're like. And plus, there's pheromones in there,
That's just okay.
Interesting pheromones.
But does it ever not? It's never not funny. I'm going to say, like,
it's the funniest thing.
I'm like in a different room in the morning, asleep, and I'm still waking up laughing, hearing somebody on the outside.
Okay, I think
it's never not funny.
It doesn't matter how highbrow you think your fucking sense of humor is, how intelligent and well-read, how many degrees you have.
The last statement was important, Christian. No matter how highbrow, intellectual, important you think you are.
Christian definitely thinks he's highbrow.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Justin. You can't see. He just said, Christian, yeah.
We heard him the first time, Shalewa. I saw some strong nonverbals from you. Do you agree with Shalewa and our guest, Sean, that farts are important?
Farts are important. I'm not big on fart jokes sometimes, only because it's the lowest common denominator. A lot of people do them and they don't necessarily do them well.
Not a fart joke.
But I know that I think maybe just in a room with people, I'm like, all right, yeah, I get it. We all fart. But alone, I definitely have done some work that has truly cracked me up. Because I'm a trumpeter. You know what I mean? I'm Coltrane. I'm Miles. So mine is just more of that nature.
Did you just say you are Coltrane?
I am Coltrane. I am Miles.
I am Miles.
I am Miles. I am Charlie Parker. I am really, it's much more of a, so those will crack me up. But I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know when to really release the hounds on those. And honestly, I don't really.
Talk to Shalewa because apparently she does.
Look, I mean, Shalewa's pulling the kind of dude. Look, Shalewa has always pulled top-rated guys. Always. So.
Jazzy, just
yeah.
I was hi to Shalewa. I love Shalewa.
But like, so they're going.
I'm obsessed with.
It's a gray bed sheet, and then I just wear a dress to match. I just want to be a head and arms. That's it. That's all I want to be at this point. But yeah, so like, I don't know. I like sometimes I think it's the personal nature of it that makes me laugh. I don't know if a joke about it makes me laugh so much as literally just hearing a tone. If I hear a tone, perhaps. But sometimes people force it, and that's when it's rough. But I mean, so when you said it sounded like a question mark, I was like, oh, I know what that sounds like. I know what that sounds like. And that is.
Thank you.
Yeah, what's funny is that it woke you up, which means
it woke me up.
That he may have been asking you something.
You
What's
got
for
it.
breakfast? How do you feel about, like,
I was like, what?
Yeah, and that can only happen in a safe and loving relationship.
Thank you. That's right.
That's
right.
not.
Thank you.
Not with these, no longer than 4-month relationships that I have. That's a serious, put a ring on it. He's asking me questions.
Thank you.
Out of all the things that Jazzy wants to comment on, he wants to interject now. Jazzy, did you have something to say?
Oh, just that maybe she was sleeping, and I thought I could get away with it.
Yeah, no, that's ultimately what it was.
I went too big.
Oh my God!
No, that freedom when you think you're alone, and the freedom.
And we're in New York, and it's like apartment life, and so when someone else is asleep, it means more to her.
Those are the precious moments. Those are the true precious moments.
It isn't exactly being alone, but it's another kind of being alone.
Yeah.
It sure is. I'm so happy we checked in, Jazzy. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad too. Well, speaking of being alone, our last friend before we play music is our intern Justin, who has been our partner in crime for the last 8 years since the beginning. Justin the intern, everybody. Let's hear it for Justin.
Hello.
Justin. Shalewa, Justin, started out as the sound tech and as the photographer.
Right.
And we demoted him to intern because he stopped doing those things. So, but he owns it, and I think I showed you, we even have a card that says Justin the intern.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's not like we still consider him one of us. It's just that he's got a different title. And
but the same pay, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, when I was doing highly technical stuff,
yeah,
exact same pay as an intern. That's what I said. That is a great.
But obviously, as Shalewa is about to say, he's a man of many, many talents beyond the capacity that he serves our show. So we're lucky that he donates his time to us. Do you want to go through some highlights, Shalewa?
Well, yeah, I wanted to share one of the early shows because I think this is when we first started to get to know Justin, and we were feeling him out. And this, to me, was a moment where I was like, I really like this guy. And in it, it's March 12th, 2013. It's episode 12. And he had talked to us about a Kickstarter. You guys remember those things? Kickstarter.
I do.
And he had done a Kickstarter, and because I was expressing how many existed and that it was just too many to keep up with, and every friend had one, and I felt bad I couldn't donate. So Justin shared with us his Kickstarter that he did way back.
I helped somebody.
You helped someone. He helped someone.
And Jason, I think we can share.
Are laughable.
Whoa.
Right? Justin told us before this show.
This is true.
That he worked, I'm not trying to throw him under the bus, but he aided and abetted a guy who had a Kickstarter campaign. Please explain, Justin.
Well, basically, I was helping somebody out do a Kickstarter thing, and they wanted to start up a company, and they wanted some insane amount of money, like $40,000 and with their product, they were selling a product. At the time, I didn't even know you could do products like this, but.
Oh no!
Sorry, guys. I think it's this podcast server.
Yeah, fair enough. So
That's all right.
We're gonna have to let Justin pick up.
Yeah,
remember the product, Justin?
Oh my God! Well, everyone got to hear.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, tell him what the Kickstarter was.
Well, the Kickstarter was jeans that had a double waistband, so that way you could appear like you had, your waist below your underwear below your butt cheeks. So, your butt cheeks are here, and you want to look like your pants are down here, but you actually want to have your pants above your waist. So it has a regular waist up here where your waist would be.
Right, Justin, we call that sagging. Saggers.
No, but there were double jeans.
I get it. But the look is you're going for is sagging.
Oh, you know what, Mr. We call that? Saggers? I gotta ask. I'm gonna ask some professionals about that because I say saggers.
You can. Oh, Shalewa, I see your.
I'm gonna ask my friend James Jones right now.
Justin, how did they make their money?
They might have made like 10 or $20, like something like that.
This is when I was like, what white boy is helping someone make double jeans Kickstarter? I was like, you hang out with some cool people.
this guy, oh, he's not, but he was not cool.
Well, you are cool, Justin. What is
now?
Justin has his own production company called Four Wind Films, and he is the mastermind behind it. And he's made a film recently. What's the film called?
The film call is called Prologue. It's written by Pepper Worley, and it has to do with not knowing the power that you have within yourself, and doubting yourself when people close to you doubt you and the things that you say.
Love it.
Awesome, Justin. Thank you, intern.
And thank you for everything. Thank you for being a great friend for at least 8 years.
Oh, thanks for letting me hang out. It's pretty fun. We
love you.
Now I just drink beers as an intern. What intern gets to drink beers?
How's the feed? Did you get any good posts? Did anyone ask you any weird questions?
I mean, mainly it was the at the beginning. It's kind of died off since then. But the important thing is that the last post is a link to Jiminy and Jason, which is a very, very entertaining website. So even if you're listening to this on the podcast, you should come back to our Facebook page and click on that and see.
Awesome.
And we'll also post Shalewa's link, the link to Shalewa's album.
That thing.
You have 2 albums too, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
whatever you find.
Shalewa, you're gonna be on Sirius XM. I'm telling you, they love you.
All right. I'm excited. Oh, it's great. That's wonderful.
It's such a good album. So you just out here. It's like that.
Yeah,
That's the album.
And I think we can safely say the answer is no. But
I never thought of that.
Hopefully that will change, and we can get back to it.
I got a quick new comment that's kind of interesting. Stephen Gemberling says it took a couple of years of our living together before John's mom would even chat with me through the bathroom door.
So that's Shalewa. I don't know if you know the actor comedian John Gemberling. He was on Broad City. He's like the roommate. His dad just said that it took years for his wife, which is John's mom, to talk to him through the bathroom.
Everybody's on their own journey with that.
Their own path. Thank you,
that's
Stephen.
fair.
That is fair. That is fair. Well, we before our final, we're going to play a song to take us out. But before that, we want to thank Shalewa so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being there for the long haul.
Sure.
We discussed everything we want to. It meant so much. And your insight to the world. My gosh.
Shalewa, I didn't even know I was that deep.
Yeah.
I did not know.
You could be a life coach.
Oh, Lord.
You sure are, old lady Silky. I can't wait to see that roll.
Yeah. That's the only one I'm gunning for. The rest of it.
Thank all of you guys for listening today. All of our guests, our crew, which is Justin Joseph Hall, the intern, and Jason Lamb, who's behind the scenes right now. Our photographers, that were on the slideshow were Daria Huxley and Stefano Giovannini and Justin Hall. And we also want to mention that we had 2 guests in the past 8 years who were fantastic guests who did pass away. We want to send our condolences to their family and just say we love them very much. Jeffrey Gambolero, he was on episode 19. He passed away in November of 2013. You might remember he was an artist. He also was a professional gambler. He also was the biggest fan of the Brooklyn Nets, and he was always on their Jumbotron. And it was really sad when he passed away. And then more recently, we had a guest. His name is Mike DeCloth. He was on episode 53 in June of 2017. He passed away in February this year, and he passed away from cancer. He was one of the funniest guests, but he's known as a brilliant musician. He could be a stand-up. I think he wanted to be. I'm so glad we had him on the show. And also wanted to talk about Representative John Lewis, who affected all of us in a huge way. I had personally shared the fact that I met him this time last year in Atlanta. I was very emotional about that. He was so full of life, so energetic, so gracious. And even then he was saying that this was a time unlike any other time in his life, where the man in the Oval Office is dangerous and that we must make good noise and good trouble. And I definitely, watching his memorial yesterday, it was really emotional. Oh, wow, that's me. Yeah, thank you, Jason. Wow, that's us. He was out in the parking lot, and we saw him. Jasper spotted him from 50 yards away, and we ran up, and he spent like 10 minutes talking to us about Nashville, being at Fisk, coming to an Ultra Baby Fat show that night. He said he might, which I can't, I wished he did, but he did spend a good time also talking about hope and optimism and us doing our work. So thank you, Jason. But lastly, we also want to share this final song by an artist named Felice Rosser. She is a brilliant, oh my gosh, her voice, it makes you melt. She has been in New York performing for a while now. She leads a band called Faith. She's in the crew that Jean-Michel Basquiat was her friend. Jean-Michel was his, like Courtney was what Jean-Michel was to her. She would give him a hard time. He wasn't a big time artist to her. He was just a guy that was cool and funny and her friend. But she alone, she's a superstar to me. So here she is singing Soul Secrets, episode 40, February 2016. Thank you guys for listening. And
thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thank you, Christian and Finale, for great 8 years.
Happy 8 years.
Happy 8 years.
Congrats to you both.
Thank you, Shalewa. Love you guys. Go ahead.
Yeah. Ooh. Tell me when to start, Steven. Yeah. This song is called Soul Secrets. Yeah. I'm on my knees, scrubbing up the kitchen floor. Yeah. Finally doing something that I came here for. When I'm with you, everything feels so right. Say bow, 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 bow. Feel right. Feelings never seem to stay, yeah, through the night, and I wonder why. I'm filled up with soul secrets, yeah, I'm haunted. Soul secrets that I can't deny. Soul secrets on my pillow, yeah. Soul secrets between you and I will always love you, even though sometimes I secretly wonder why. I wonder why. Laying on your bed, watching all the cars on the road. They've all got secrets, well, that will always keep them alone. Rolling home, ooh yeah. Gotta keep rolling. Soul secrets, yeah, I'm haunted. Soul secrets that I can't deny. Soul secrets on my pillow, yeah. Soul secrets between you and I will always love you, even though sometimes I secretly wonder why. Say bow, 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 bow. I can't carry this weight, yeah. I can't carry this weight all on my own. I look like I am falling. Pick me up sometime, help me make it on home, yeah. Soul secrets, yeah, I'm haunted, yeah. Soul secrets that I can't deny. Soul secrets on my pillow, and soul secrets between you and I will always love you, even though sometime I secretly wonder why. I wonder why. I secretly wonder why. I wonder why. I secretly wonder why. I wonder why. I secretly wonder why. I wonder why.
Woo! Shanelle, you're on mute.
Yeah, Chanel, come on.
You're on mute. Shanelle.
We did it. Thank you guys. Eight
did it.
years. We gave, you know what?
First ever retrospective.
We took up
wow.
space. We took up space. We deserve to take up space. Thank you, Shalewa, Justin.
Thank you, Shanelle, the matron of We Don't Even Know. Shanelle.
All right, everybody. Let's do this.
Good night. Thank you, everyone. Talk to you later. Bye for now.